Yep.
So yes, now the product that we would be looking at today to run our Selenium-based test would be Automate. We also have a product called as Live. Now that would allow you to run manual test cases across the same infrastructure that Automate also gives you access to. So this includes testing on mobile devices, on various browsers, as well as testing on OS buzzer combinations on desktop devices as well. But for Automate specifically, yes, it does support Selenium, but it also supports other automation frameworks as well within the same subscription. That includes Cypress, Playwright, and Puppeteer as well. Now, inherently, Selenium does support multiple languages and runner frameworks as well. So test runner frameworks and since Selenium supports them, inherently BrowserStack supports them as well. Now I'll quickly just give you, I'll go through the Java documentation and this just give an overview of what is involved over here for the integration. But yes, these steps are pretty much the same for all integrations. That includes the language bindings and the frameworks, wherein essentially what we are doing is we are initializing an instance of remote WebDriver. And what that would mean is that we are creating an instance of remote WebDriver and pointing it towards BrowserStack's hub address. And this is how the instance would know how to contact BrowserStack. Within the hub address itself is also two set of credentials. These two include basically your username and your access key. So every account that is associated with BrowserStack would be associated with these two credentials. It's unique for every user, and it's how BrowserStack would identify and authenticate you as well. Now, this is how we contact BrowserStack. Now, how do we let the remote WebDriver instance know which set of browser or which configuration we would want to run a test against? And that we do through the use of capabilities. This would be the second parameter that we are setting. Now, we have a helpful capability generator with us. Now, you can set it to the language of your choosing. And what you can do is then go ahead and select, the OS platform you would want to run your test script again, as well as the browser version as well. Now, this will, when this set of capabilities is passed to the remote WebDriver, this is how BrowserStack would know which configuration you would need to run your test scripts against, and you would have the same provided to you as well. Now, this again includes both desktop devices and mobile devices. So you can select specific devices against which you would want to run your test script against as well. Now, once this is set up, you can then go ahead and use those standard Selenium and EPM commands to run your test scripts. That includes finding elements within the selected DOM and then interacting with them by clicking them or by say entering a specific input value. You can run your test scripts as you normally would, and the same would be reflected on the BrowserStack dashboard as well. Now, we do have something called as the BrowserStack SDK. So what we did notice is that when teams initially do try to say integrate with BrowserStack, there are a few BrowserStack related settings that they would need to do at their end. And that generally was the cause of a lot of a lot of resources were being poured into this initial integration. So to ease that tension, we have built something called as the BrowserStack SDK. Now, all that includes is we have specific plugins right now available for both IntelliJ and Eclipse IDE, and we also have a CLI approach. What they essentially would do is insert the BrowserStack SDK dependency within your current project, and all BrowserStack related settings would be stored within, say, a single YML file within your project's root as well. Now, it is also within this YML file that you can specify not only the BrowserStack related setting, but also the different platforms you would want to test against. And the SDK would also take care of running tests in parallel. So this is something that we saw a team struggle with initially as well. So we to ease that transition. The SDK itself would handle parallel testing for you. And you can just specify, say, a cap on the number of parallels you want to have available per OS platform, and that would automatically be reflected while you execute your test normally within BrowserStack as well. Now, when you do execute your test, you would be navigated to, you can see the logs at the BrowserStack dashboard. And again, team, if you have any questions, I'm brushing through a lot over here, so feel free to ask them and we can have them addressed then and there as well. So this is the BrowserStack Automate dashboard. Any logs that are generated for an execution on BrowserStack would be made available here. It's through here that you can retrieve your username and access key. And what you can see prominently displayed next to it are the running threads. So every subscription of BrowserStack would, for Automate would be subscribed to a certain number of parallels. So the account that you're looking at your screens right now is associated with a 5 parallel subscription. That means at any given instance, I can go ahead and launch 5 instances of the remote WebDriver. Now, the configurations of those instances can be anything. So these can be 5 unique different configurations, or say running on iPhone 12, on iOS 14, iPhone on Chrome, as well as on say on Safari on Mojave. So I can have 5 unique configurations, or I can have 5 of the same configurations as well. So BrowserStack won't limit you when it comes to running test across configurations. Just the total number of threads that you're only limited by the total number of threads that you've subscribed. Say if I have 5 tests running at any given instance, and if I go ahead and launch, say, a 6th session, what would happen then is that the initial 5 would begin their execution immediately. The 6th session would head over to the queued state, and it is basically in stasis, waiting for a slot to open up within the running thread. And when one does open up, it's only then that it would jump over to the running state and then begin its execution. Speaking of those execution, I can quickly just jump on one of the sessions that were generated. And yes, a video log of the entire script execution is made available to you. So you can have a visual representation of what were the actions that were performed by the test script. A more human readable version of the commands that were sent from the Selenium test scripts would be made available to you under the text logs panel. We also have network logs available here. Now, what this does essentially is that when set up, it would capture any and all network calls that were made from the browser during the course of a test execution. So in case you want to debug, say, if a certain resource doesn't show up on the video log while you conducted your test script, you can just jump into the network logs and see what was the response that was received from the server there. You can get the request and response parameters along with the headers, as well as the timing components of the response. And that's how you can get a better understanding of how the network calls were processed during the execution as well. You also do have access to the console log. Now, this is the JavaScript console of the browser, as well as the Selenium hub logs at Arm. Now, we have also made available something called as terminal log. So in case while you execute your test script on, say, your local machine or your CI, if you want all your logs to be consolidated within a single dashboard, you can have your local CI logs or your local execution logs uploaded to BrowserStack using using our API. And when uploaded, it would be made available to you under the terminal logs tab as well.
Yeah. Hey, one sec. Hey, hang on. Sorry. Hey, Ken is trying to join, and can someone just add him?
Yeah, I already did. Probably he would be joining.
Yeah, he's in. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So at this point, are there any questions around BrowserStack that I can help address before I move further?
Just one, like Suron, you are explaining the running and the queue version of like all the teach cases, right?
Exactly. So this is how the logs would appear on the BrowserStack dashboard.
No. I was asking about the, like, when you are showing the running limit, like 5, after that it will be on queue, right?
Exactly. So say if you go ahead and launch 6 sessions.
Cases you are talking? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So yes, as I was saying that this number is totally defined by your subscription. So currently this account is subscribed to a 5 parallel subscription. That's the only reason it can run only 5 configurations of 5 instances of remote WebDriver at any given time. What would happen in the 6th instance is that it would head to the queue state, wait for a slot to open up within the running state. And when one of the initial 5 finishes their execution, Only then would it jump off from the queued state to the running state and then begin its execution.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Sure. We also have something called as local testing available. So in case, say you want to test out a web application that may not be publicly accessible, say it is say, locally hosted on your system, or maybe it's behind a corporate firewall. We can test those websites out on BrowserStack's hardware using the local testing binary. Now, this would be an application that you can install on your local system. And the only change that you would need to do is when you are setting the capability, you would need to set the capability BrowserStack local and set its value to true. This would let BrowserStack know that we need to use the tunnel connection. And what would happen then is that we would route the network request for those internally hosted non-public websites through your local system. And that's how we can test out those non-public websites on BrowserStack. At this point, are there any questions that I can help address?
Nothing from my side.
Certainly. So we also do support a lot of CI/CD tools. So if you can generally, if you can execute your code locally, there is no limitation on CI platforms to have them executed on BrowserStack. But for the popular CI frameworks such as Jenkins, Bamboo, Teamcity, and all the CI frameworks that you see listed out here, we do have a certain plugins available. Now, these generally involve interfaces that would allow you to say store your credentials safely on these Jenkins platform, and this would allow you to then retrieve your credentials directly through the use of environment variables within your test script. Also, within the plugins is a way to say start the local binary on the CI tool itself to test out, as I stated, those non-public websites. So you wouldn't need to handle the setting up the local testing binary manually or through code. You can just have the CI plugin do that for you every time you run a build on it as well.
We have multiple environments in which we work on. So does it allow us to set up our test cases on independent environments, right? We have the staging, a dev, and the production, probably a few more. So it allows us to manage that.
Certainly. So how would the configuration for, like, say, staging versus dev, like for you look like? So like, do you physically need to change the VPN, or do you manually need to change the VPN that your device is pointed to, or is there a single VPN that you just need to connect to, and different domains represent the different environments?
Yeah, it's basically different domains which represent, right?
Got it. So yes, for those websites, yes, the local testing binary just needs to be set up. You can then within your test scripts themselves specify which endpoint you would want to visit, and that would be handled from within the test script itself. With the local binary, basically allowing that connection to pass through the tunnel connection. And yes, the local binary by default tries to use the system's proxy connection. But in case you would want to, say, specify a specific proxy host, port, or user credentials for the proxy, that can also be set up. So the binary has the option to have it configured in a way to be pointed to a specific proxy as well. So at this point, are you leaning towards, say, any specific framework or say language binding that you would want to say scale up using Selenium test scripts? So we do have the documentations for all of them available here. Now, all of them also do give you, say, access to a sample repository that would be linked within the documentation themselves. And as I stated, we have SDKs available for most of these dependencies. So that would allow you to have not only allow you to quickly scale up on parallel testing, but have all BrowserStack related configuration on a single YML file as well. Sure, team. So I think if I don't think we have any further questions at the moment, but here, if feel free to raise them.